Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first Free Friday coaching call of October. For those of you that may be joining us for the first time, we do this the first and third weeks of the month. It's an industry agnostic call, meaning there's going to be people from all different levels of experience and all different brokerages that tune into this call. And the purpose is to up level in skill set and mindset so that you can be more successful in your real estate business, career, and life. And how this call originated, which has been going on for several years now. I don't know how many years, I lost count. However, Rick originally started the call as Rick's Free Friday coaching call. For the years that he was an industry leader, 43 years in real estate as a master trainer, speaker, coach, facilitator. He would always so graciously give of his time, always give out his cell phone number and offer to help anyone with anything. And so he created a one-to-many conversation on these calls. And in honor of his legacy and commitment to helping the current and next generation of people that would come into the industry, we've kept these going and feature different guests on them that are disrupting in the industry, that have experience and wisdom to bring based on what they've done, not what they've sat in a class and learned, and really to bring the best of the best into conversations that are going to help us all level up, skill up, and continue to learn and grow. So I'm super excited to have our guest on the call today. I got introduced to him through a very valued partner in our organization, Katie Delosto, who you can see there under Coach Katie. She's with us on the call today. And Katie's network is so vast of really richly connected people that are doing amazing things. And so when we first got connected and had a conversation, and just this is high level, 30 years in the real estate sales, home management sales business, as a coaching company. He's overseen over 3.5 billion in real estate transactions during his career. All of that with a little foundation of being a Marine previously to that. Thank you for your service. I said, man, we got to get you on the call, on the Free Friday coaching call, because I'm clear that there is a ton of value that you can offer to our community that's committed to continuing to learn, grow, and skill up. So Don, I'm super grateful to have you on the call today, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate your having me. I really do. I never miss an opportunity to hear the sound of my own voice.
That's good. Do you sing in the shower?
I'll sing right now if you like.
Okay.
Maybe later.
You can take a
Okay.
vote.
Yeah. Yeah. Down with him. Um, Thanks for having me. I don't want to I've got a resume like a lot of people do. I've been at it for 33 years. I got my first real estate license in Southern California in 1992. At the time, I was in the Marine Corps. And I was in for 6 years, and I was an aviation electronics technician, and kind of thought, gosh, you know what? I'm living in Southern California, surrounded by bazillionaires, and I'm kind of living on the base, thinking, maybe there's a better way. And so I started selling houses while I was still in the Jarheads, and first Gulf War broke out, and I got sent over, and I'm like, oh, so I was interrupted. When I came back, got out in '93 and started working for large home builders. And so my first home builder was KB Home, which used to be called Kaufman and Broad. And so, fast forward 30 years. And so I have had about a 50 relationship with my career about working with big builders, working with medium builders. And then also I've run a Remax franchise. I ran a Christie's International franchise. Most of my business is in Southern California and Hawaii, but I've consulted through, gosh, probably 10 states and even United Arab Emirates for a little while. And so, what I kind of wanted to do on this call is just free up as much time as we can. I do coach. I've been coaching full time for about 4 years, but my management style has always been coaching, for the last 25 years. But what I want to cover on this call and really get it, maybe some participation is, how are you leveraging the builder community to do more deals and to do more transactions? At any given time, depending on where you are in the market and so forth, the home builder can be responsible for 10, 5, 10, or even 20% of inventory in the market. And so if you're ignoring that, do it at your own peril because it's still important for you to be an expert in your market, right? So whatever's happening in real estate, I don't even if it might be commercial development, it might be city planning, it might be anything. You should still take the time and the effort to become a subject matter expert in what's happening in the land and in real estate um, in your market, right?
So, as we jump into this topic, this may be a new conversation for some people. I know there's some people on the call that may be devoted and dedicated to developing those builder relationships and securing that niche in the market.
Yep.
So we have some people here that are working that as a niche market. I know that there's people here that are like, oh, builders are applicable if I have a buyer that I'm going to take into one of those communities where they're going to take the lead on most things, and I need to make sure that I am the person that gets them to that community when they sign in, to have the opportunity for compensation as I support my client.
Sure.
Uh, and then kind of everything in between. So where would you say the most effective place is to kind of start this conversation for someone that maybe hasn't mastered this area or doesn't have that as a focus, but really is wanting to enter in and have that be perhaps a pillar of their business in securing these kind of relationships with builders and having that be a part of what they do?
Absolutely outstanding question. First off, this is a niche on a niche, right? And so if you're within the sound of my voice, either live or in syndication afterwards, if you don't have some real core system and method and process and discipline around follow up and some really good business communication, and you're already getting leads from another source, I would say that this is probably a great way for a secondary or even a tertiary way to start allocating some time to develop it, right? Because it's going to take time for you to get to that point where you're actually making decent money or decent return off the effort. So it's a sales job, right? So what does every sales job start with? A prospect list. So I know it might not be very sexy, but I help people across the country on this topic, and some have different builders in their area, and so the three main builder groups that you can identify today with where you are is there's national builders, there's regional builders, and then there are local builders. And it kind of depends on the sort of builder that's operating in your market. It's going to depend on the sort of opportunity that you're going to be able to potentially execute on. And so, Casey, you indicated or you hit that low hanging fruit, and that is I can always bring a buyer and represent a buyer to a home builder. And so some of us are in really large markets, and so we see these large Fortune 500 companies, and many of them have their own in-house sales professionals. They still have to be licensed, but they might not even be member of a board of realtors. And so, traditionally we think we can just go in there and we can register our customer and then set it and forget it. And the commission check shows up, maybe, and you're off to the races. But some of the things that I've perfected with approaching a large builder and how you can even do this today. I started approaching large builders in Palm Springs when I created my first brokerage. And I started approaching a company called D.R. Horton, which is a very large home builder. And I created a contingent property management program for all of their division in Palm Springs. And what this meant is if somebody came in to purchase a D.R. Horton home, I was the preferred vendor to take the contingent home to sell. And it took a little bit of effort to get to there, right? Because the people at DR Horton are very corporate and they're top down leaders and top down managers. So what I did is I just started visiting neighborhoods. I just started visiting DR Horton neighborhoods. And simple script. I said, "Hi, I'm Don." At the time, I had my own brokerage. It was Terra Nova. I'm Don with Terra Nova Realty, and I'm the resale expert liaison for this area. Oh, really? Yeah. So you're dealing with a captive salesperson who might have a license, but they're not a realtor, right? They don't take listings. And so then I would hand them, I said, well, here's a market snapshot. Here's the resale activity that's happening around your community. And I did that every quarter. I would just pop in, hand them the refresh, hand them the refresh, hand them the refresh. And within a really short period of time, I started developing friendships because I made a commitment to show up and deliver something for free. Like I'm going to give something for free. And I didn't ask for anything in return, like nothing. Right. But so after a few quarters, I eventually hooked up with the sales manager who was overseeing 10 neighborhoods. Right. And this person's under a huge amount of stress because they're in a publicly held company and they have Wall Street calling them Monday morning asking, how many sales did you get? How many sales did you get? How many sales did you get? Huh? And they're like, two. You're like, whoa, whoa, what? Like it doesn't even keep the lights on. So what I started crafting out was some marketing ideas and just handing them to that sales director on how to interface with the real estate, with the realtor community. Most home builders think that they're in real estate, but the truth of the matter is they're in the manufacturing industry. They're responsible for 5% of the transactions, which means that 95% of the transactions, which is the market, they're almost totally blinded on. So to penetrate a DR Horton, you can do it. The next thing that happened with DR Horton is I started listing their leftovers. And so they'd have a community in Palm Desert and it had 50, 60, 80 homes in it. And they'd pull the sales team out. They had 3 or 4 or 5 homes left. They're building out the parking lot. They're converting the models. And so I listed them. So I actually started listing houses for DR Horton. And then I did replicate that same thing with a bunch of regional builders in Palm Springs and then started interfacing with real estate developers and builders to actually help them create a sales team, either in-house or I would outsource it. But the whole time, what am I doing? I'm generating leads off their traffic all day long. And they didn't care because it didn't cost them a dime. And then I had a lot of control over their backlog. Public companies have to show revenue every quarter. And if they don't show revenue, then there's hell to pay. And so if you're in a market that's got, 20 or 30 or 40 of your percent of your backlog revenue schedule is contingent on another home to sell, and there's hidden contingencies in there, and you're a public company, you're not going to make your revenue number and you're going to get fired. Been there, done that.
So that was a lot of incredible information, and I want to.
Sorry.
Oh, good. I was typing notes in the chat to highlight some of the bullet pointed things for people that may be taking notes as well. The first thing that I want to highlight is something that Matthew Ferry, who's Mike Ferry's son, always talks about in the real estate industry as a coach, when he calls it giving the gift, and that is showing up and checking in, offering something of value for free to build the relationship, and asking for nothing. And you that's the first thing that you had and what you talked about, which was showing up and delivering something of value to them as it related to what was going on in the resale market around them, so they could understand the impact of where they were sitting. And that became a door opener to build those relationships, right? And I think that in sales, particularly, obviously there's the relationship part and there's the transaction part. And the time between those two things can be varied. And so for people that are in the sales business and wanting to, excel in sales, they've got to transact. However, you can't force what it takes to create the credibility in the relationship, because business always travels at the speed of trust, in my experience, with people, right? So it comes back to, being a person that is in sales, right? That when we're investing and bringing value and creating relationships, we now start to take up a mental mind share of being a resource, right? And when someone's having an issue or a challenge or something they need to solve or something they need to get done, we initially think, who are my resources? Right. And the people that are going to come to the top of our minds are going to be the ones that are putting themselves in front of us, that continue to show up and do that. So, it's the terrible thing in real estate and sales called lead generation, that nobody wants to put on their calendar to do at least an hour a day of. that, some agents don't do it all and then wonder why they're not doing more business. And like if you're in a sales position, you're never going to get around lead generation, like your ability to make it rain and generate those leads, which are going to come through relationships in many cases, most cases, unless you're paying for them, which is a whole separate conversation. It takes that diligence. It takes that consistency over time. You talked about the consistency of going in once a quarter and having that value add information and nurturing those relationships. And so it's really this, and when you look at the real estate agent population in general, and the average agent doing roughly 3 transactions a year, like if you want to build a career in real estate, it's not about being average. You got to do what people that are actually building careers in real estate do. And it is consistency over time, doing the things that are going to generate and actually build business. So we had a question that came up in the chat, and I think you hit on it high level. They may be looking for more specifics. Liz is asking, what was it that you were delivering when you were?
That's a great question. So please understand. And so there's this is for large public builders, okay, that have in-house captive salespeople. They can only sell the product. So they're functioning like car salesmen on a lot, kind of, right? Understand that these people, 9 times out of 10, although they might have a real estate license, they are not a member of the board of realtors. So they do not have access to all of the tools that you have through MLS. So I literally just created a market snapshot. And it's the exact same thing that I coach my listing agents to do. And that is open up your MLS. I want you to do a proximity search, open up the map, do a 1 mile circle or a 2 mile circle around ground zero. And I just want you to click on active and closed 0 minus 360, right? I want you to go over and print, and I want you to print the agent single liner and the map. That's it. I want you to PDF it, print out a hard copy, and take it with you. It's not sexy. It's not interesting. It's not loaded with a bunch of graphics. Hey, I am the resale liaison here in the area. I just wanted to give you little information about what's happening in the market. Great. So I use that kind of wording because that wording continues, because as people start moving into this community, guess what I do? I door knock and I give them a basket. Welcome to the neighborhood. I'm the community liaison. I'm an expert, and I work directly with D.R. Horton. And I can say that because I've already had a conversation with the salespeople. And I'll say, is it okay for me to hand out move-in gifts? Yeah. Then I give that person, what do I give them? Here's how many homes that have sold in the community so far. Right. And so, and then I just have a disciplined thing where every quarter I'm going to every neighborhood. And here's what's so awesome about that. The sales office closes. I'm sitting on 100 houses. Who am I? I'm the last person that they see from the D.R. Horton sales office. If they have a customer service issue, I encourage them to call me. Am I going to deal with their service issue? No, but I'm going to give them a telephone number and the contact information for customer service. Why? Because I'm the customer liaison. I'm the resale expert that's in this area. Right. And so I'm not making a representation that I'm somebody that I'm not. I'm an expert in resale, and I am an expert in your area. I do work closely with D.R. Horton. Right. And so what you find is you start developing, if you're patient and you're humble, you can start developing these relationships. And before you know it, what happens is you start getting a phone call from a sales manager, or the salesperson in the community calls you up and says, oh my God, my sales manager is stressing me out. And I don't know where my sales coming from this week. Right. I used to get that call all the time. I said, well, if you'd like, I can help you put a program together so you can reach out to all the realtors in this area. Well, oh my gosh, you would think that you just are walking on water at that point, because the sales manager in that location, they don't have access to the MLS. They don't know who realtors are. They don't know who I said, well, if you'd like, I can get you a list of the top 100 buyers agents here. that cover this area. If you like, I can get that for you. You can market to them, or I can get you their phone numbers, right? So you start becoming a community liaison, right? And it's effective and it works really well. I've done it with Lennar, I've done it with KB Home, I've done it with the DR Horton, I've done it with Pulte, I've done it with Standard Pacific that doesn't exist any longer. Um, and got very close with Richmond American, but I was doing too many other things. So
And I'd like to highlight the language that you used in case somebody missed it. If you'd like versus would you like?
yeah.
And would you like, there's a yes or no on that.
Mhm.
If you'd like, somehow just energetically is like, of course, is what comes at the
I
end
like
of
it. I like
yeah,
things.
I like
I
it.
like it.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
So I'd love to pause for where we're at so far in the conversation today, and have anybody that is here in the community have the opportunity for questions, comments, feedback, clarifications, anything you'd like. No, except for not all at once.
I'll go.
Oh, great, great, Coach Katie.
Sorry,
Outstanding.
sorry. Yeah, so sorry, not sorry. I mean, this is why Dawn and I are friends, because
Because there's something in it for you. Exactly.
Yeah. Because we had this whole epiphany about Builder. It's like, wait, somebody else who kind of gets this. And I've personally done a lot of what Dawn's talking about, and a lot of people get nervous, and it's fun. It's so much fun to go and talk and get involved in the Builder community, and to say, hey, we can put together an event where we can bring agents to come and see your properties and, connect to the MLS. And and just everybody on this call is connected to their real estate community. And if you connect your resale real estate community to the Builder community, you'll have partnerships for life. And it's just a lot of fun. So I mean, every time I listen down, I learn something, but I've done a lot of what he's talking about, and it 100% works.
Katie, a great group you got everyone within the sound of my voice can do this. This is a no-brainer, right? Fortune 500 company, they don't care about your opinion. They could care less about your opinion. They are driven off data, right? Driven off data. So what you can do is you can easily host a lunch of realtors and put together a focus group, right? So Hovnanian.
Realtors in the same sentence.
I'm sorry, what?
You say focus group and realtors in the same sentence?
Yeah, I know. It seems chaotic, right? But you hand select some people, your friends, let's be honest, right? And here's 10 questions, and I want you to answer these questions about the market. And that is, would you rather have a third car garage or a fourth bedroom if it was the exact same cost, right? Because if you compile this type of information and you hand it to a Fortune 500 company, it's valid at that point because you're instantaneously credible. If you just render a verbal opinion and it's your opinion, you're not credible because you're an individual and you're not part of the board, quite honestly. So these large Fortune 500 companies work in these divisions. So, but to your point, that's a focus group. I made a ton of contacts off focus group, and it's a free service. Mr. Homebuilder, Miss Homebuilder, one of the things I do as a community liaison is I'm always surveying the top 100 buyers agents in this market. Now I know you want more buyers, right? Wouldn't you like to know what they're thinking? Wouldn't you like to know that 18 months before your grand opening? It might determine your fit and finish level or your spec level. Do you think that might, I don't know. If you like it, in fact, I've already done it. If you'd like it, I'd love to, have coffee and send it and give you my results.
That's fantastic.
Simple.
Yep. So going out and doing work that's going to give them important data to drive the result that they're looking to create, which in, a public company is produce. Nobody cares about feelings in public companies. Right. Production, like results, right?
Well, and middle level management, even upper level management, they're looking for validation and plausible deniability. And so I know that seems like, oh my gosh, that sounds, but it's just how it is. You work in a large company and you're getting paid on the 1st and the 15th. and you're pulling in a couple $100,000, and then all of a sudden you have someone who's making seven figures stressing you out about what you better be doing on Tuesday. Have you called the realtors? Like, there's such a misinformation. There's such a misconception of an upper level builder management. They think realtors have some sort of special closet in the back office where all the buyers are. Man, if you go in that closet, all those buyers are like, they don't even realize that you're independent contractors, and the most successful of you like rarely go to the office, right? And so there's like this whole, like, you can be the brightest light in a very dark room and still only be 40 watts, and you can absolutely add a huge amount of value to these people.
I love that. Kelly, would love to hear your question or thoughts.
So you mentioned that you list their leftovers. So
Yep.
I've been seeing, I check the MLS every day to look for expired listings. And some of the ones I've seen lately are brand new homes in new communities listed
Yep.
by a real estate agent, not
Yep.
the sales agent.
Right.
So how do you get those listings, and what time period do you use for it?
Amen, sister. Um, I love that question because everything is about relationship, and it goes back to this prospect list. You're probably not going to fall out of the sky and list a leftover. However, if you've been delivering value to the sales director for five months, 8 months, 2 quarters, 5 quarters, you're going to put yourself in a position where you say, you call them up and say, hey, I noticed that you listed a property with Remax. Just kidding. With my competitor, and it didn't sell. Do you know why it didn't sell? Would you like me to take a look at it? Now, here's the thing. You got to be a little bit careful because obviously we have that thing called sign jumping. You don't want to jump someone else's listing, but sign jumping is really a consumer to consumer protection validation. It's not B2C, right? So if I'm talking to a Fortune 500 company that's got 50 salespeople and 600 listings per year, I'm dealing at a B2B level with another professional. So, Kelly, here's the short answer. For gosh sakes, find the sales manager, take that person to coffee. Find the sales manager and give that person market information about stuff they don't know. Find that person and ask them a simple question. Hey, I noticed your property at 123 Main Street expired, and I know that Sally had that, and Sally's a fine buyer's agent, right? Maybe she's not a great listing agent. She's a fine, right? And so can you help? What strategic plan did she have to maximize exposure for the property? At which point there's crickets because Sally doesn't have a strategic plan. Sally stumbled into the sales office and made friends with one of the salespeople, just like you're going to do, right? So that's how you do it. You're not going to pick one up. You're just not going to swoop in and pick one up off the floor, and not have value in it, right? Because the value here is in the relationship. It's not in the listing. So when I got up and running in Palm Springs, it was just crazy. I was getting 50 listings a month. What? And I'm like, holy. And then I started doing something else, which was kind of crazy. Like, these companies couldn't staff their open house. They were having a difficult time keeping qualified people there 7 days a week from 10 to 4, right? From 10 to 5. I created a staffing company that did just that. And so for $20 an hour, I'd put a licensed person in a sales office and I would partner them with a resale agent. These builders don't realize the most valuable asset they have is not the real estate. It's their lobby traffic. Get 100 stops a week. 12% of those people are going to buy homes somewhere in 12 months. You're only going to convert 3 of them into the product they're walking into. What happens to the other 9% of the traffic? Oy, oy, oy. So, Kelly, take the effort. I'm telling you, this is not everyone within the sound of my voice is going to do this, and that's okay because I'm telling you, but there's a handful of people that I'm talking to right now. They're going to get it, right?
Yeah, we call
Thank
those
you.
we call those integrators. Rick would always laugh about that. People would say, why are you giving away all your, like top most effective things? He's like, because 99.5% of you are never going to go out and do it. So it doesn't matter if I give it away, you're never going to be competition for me.
I never met Rick, unfortunately, but I'll tell you, he's 100% correct. I give everything away for free. In fact, I started the practice a long time ago. If anyone on the sound of my voice, either live or on syndication, you want to talk to me, just go grab 15 minutes on my calendar link. It doesn't cost anything. I'll talk to I talk to many, many people. And then also, this is maybe a little premature, but if you're here now or in recording later, I developed a new home certification class, and if you contact me, I'll give it to you for free. It's $50. But it gives you great prospecting ideas, and it gives you great methodologies for approach. The other thing I'll do is I'm happy to coach you for free for a month on that topic.
Cool. So for people that are really committed to, taking this and be in, integration, right? So if you look at, you've talked about some important things. You've talked about the importance of developing relationship and having a schedule that gets consistently executed, which is quarterly, right? So giving the gift for free, offering
Right.
something of value, asking for nothing in return, and being strategic with the relationships that you're working to develop within those communities. And then from there, this layered approach, right? But somebody's got to look at their 2025 year and go, okay, well, if this is a strategy that I want to employ, like where am I mapping out in my calendar for the year of when this intentional relationship building, adding value consistently done quarterly over time is going to happen? And if that's going to be a pillar of someone's business, a lot of times in our community, we talk about having 4 pillars of business of where you're getting your business from. And if someone wants to develop this builder community as a pillar of business, it takes, a strategy, right? And something that's systematized. You highlighted that, the systematization of it over time. In the same way that somebody that wants to do real estate business as a career and put food on the table for their family's got to have some kind of structure of when they lead generate and are building relationships that are going to lead to business as well. So the we always say that if you treat this business like a hobby, it will pay you like a hobby, and most hobbies cost money.
Right.
But it's like a business and you've got a structure around it that you're committed to consistently executing, which is if you're the rainmaker and you're making the relationships and the business come in, everything else takes care of itself because you've got the business to do and to execute. But it's that one thing that requires the commitment, the diligence, the structure, and the intentionality around it of really treating the business like a business, from this perspective. So for somebody that wants to do this at a high level, just, putting out some expectations based on your experience. What have you seen? Like if somebody's starting from scratch and this is a pillar business that they want to develop, how it's time for return, right? Is it like you got to do this consistently for 6 months, 9 months, a year and a half before you really start seeing things from it? What was your experience?
No, so you should be finding results in 30 days. If you're not, for God's sakes, get on my calendar. Period. Right. So, because that's just one, I've got about 15 different disciplines within this conversation that we don't have time to talk about. But if you're just starting out, here's the very first thing I want you to do. I want you to go to your MLS and start making a list of people with new construction, right? Start identifying builders in your area. You're going to be able to do that by going to the MLS, doing a search of properties that were built today, and start looking for who the owner is, right? So if the owner is an LLC, guess what? There's some likelihood it's a developer. Now it might be a little builder, it might be a big builder, maybe it's something else. I also would 100% recommend that you take a look at the BIA, the Building Industry Association. Building Industry Association has chapters all across the United States, just like realtors, right? Just like we have our own boards. The BIA. The BIA has a member list. Guess what? Bada boom, bada bang. Attend BIA meetings, Building Industry Association meetings. Why? Because you're going to meet other vendors that are doing work in the builder community. For example, General Electric has an entire division that services home builders. So if you are friends with the GE appliance rep and that person's supplying refrigerators to 15 builders in your market, do you think that would be a good person to have breakfast with once in a while? Probably. Another thing, here's another thing that I would absolutely do in that first month. You need to find out what's happening in your market with your local municipality. So it might be city government, it might be county government, but homes just don't spring up out of the ground arbitrarily. Somebody has to have a building permit. Somebody has to have a demo permit. Somebody has to apply for a plat map or a tract map. Your city has a general plan of development and a specific plan and variance. You can go to the city council meeting anytime you want. You can go to the meet the planning commissioner. What's a list of things that are happening in my community? I'm friends with the planning commissioner. Now, here's why this is so important. When you're at that meeting, are you going to ignore only people who are home builders? No, they're people, for God's sakes. You're going to list their property, right? And so anything that you're doing in going after home builders, you're going to be immersed in a location where there's people that you can develop relationships with and you can follow up with them and put them in your database, period. City officials are outstanding people to talk to because let me tell you what, you're an expert in real estate in that city. You're the liaison, right? And guess what? How frequently does a city official have a really positive conversation with a member of the public? Never. So city officials are like, oh my God, here comes Don Stanek again. He's going to complain about dog poop and parking, right? So if you're upbeat and you think does the city official have access to the MLS? No. You're going to hand them, hey, here's what real estate looked like in our city last year. And here's what happened last quarter. Oh my gosh. I'll see you next quarter. During planning commission, there's always a public hearing and you've got the right to stand up and speak for 3 minutes about the project. So 15 people get up and speak to the project and they say, oh my God, there's so much traffic on Main Street. You people are crazy. And I would rather have a burnout 7-Eleven there than a housing, right? And then you get up there and say, gosh, you know what? I'm an expert in real estate in the area and we need more affordable housing. And I am so excited that this project is going to be up and running. And I'm just so happy to be able to promote it. You turn around and in the front seat, the front 4 seats of the city council, who's sitting there? The developer, the developer's attorney, their equity partner, their banker. At which point you have every right to go up there and talk to them and say, hey, if there's anything I can do. In fact, here's what's happening with real estate in the area. Now, do you think the guy who's the equity partner bankrolling that project has any other projects? This is how I developed a relationship with IHP, International Housing Partners, and they have about a 15 or $20 billion real estate portfolio that they develop. And so these little tiny things that you can do are free. You don't have to buy these leads. You just have to go make friends with the right people. I'm sorry, I'm starting to evangelize now. You're going to have to tell me to shut up.
No, we love it. We love it. Because it's how business moves at the speed of trust. And how do you get trust? You're not going to get it off a flyer. You're going to get it off a face, off an experience, off of an interaction, right? And
Drip
so
campaign.
when you're pro growth, right? And you're looking to get into this place, like to be able to position yourself in a one-to-many conversation in a room that has all of the right people in the room to be able to hear you and have that experience without having to come up and sell yourself to them. They now know that you're an advocate. You've immediately got mental space and positioning, which is genius, right? All right, so as we're coming into what I call landing the plane, which is, going to bring this full circle and bringing it home, what outstanding questions, thoughts that you guys have had that have come up as we've been in this conversation, anything that we haven't covered that you would like to dig in deeper on, or that hasn't even, been approached yet in the conversation as it relates to how to position yourself and really secure business in this niche called builder business. You were that good, Don.
No questions. I would just tell you that not every market has large Fortune 500 builders, and that's great. I'll tell you that annually about 1,150,000 building permits are pulled across the country for single family residences. And if you take a look at the percentage of those that are sold and built by Fortune 500 companies, it's only about 22, 23%. So the vast majority of construction that's happening in your city, it could be like a lady with a pickup truck. It could be a single use LLC, which is very common. So a single use LLC is like the lofts at downtown, right? And you pull the thing up and you're like, oh, it's like six guys got together and they pooled their money and they demoed the parking lot and they put up a mixed use building. All right, well, who's selling those? You can get that. You can go get that listing. In fact, I will coach you on how to go get that listing. If you identify that property, I will get you over the finish line.
Love that. So for people that want to get in touch with you, I see in the chat you put your information.
Yeah, it's donaldstanek.com is my website, or donstanek.com. I have another, we never touched on it, but my coaching enterprise is called reagilecoach.com. I have some background in software development. And so my coaching method is about applying agile software development methodology to project management as it relates to pipeline development. Oh my God, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, what does that mean? Speaking English.
So, so back in the old days, there's like two kinds of basic project management, right? There's something called waterfall approach, and that's how you put man on the moon. And that is everything has to be figured out before you launch. With software development, it's managed in an agile methodology, which means it's not chaos, but what you do is you have to deliver some kind of value on a regular basis, and you have to demonstrate that you're making progress. And the reason that was the case is because software was being developed in waterfall methodology, and by the time it was deployed, it was already obsolete, right? So they had to come up with a new project management methodology. And so this is how I coach people, quite honestly. It's like, let's get to MVP, like minimum viable process. Then we're going to drift into continuous improvement, which is, technically Six Sigma. And so that has to do with, what are my process? What's my method? How do I find greater efficiency? How do I take this method? How do I take the systems and delegate them off to someone else? And so, so that's what Reagile is, Agile.
Sounds like the opposite approach of throwing an egg up against the wall, seeing what sticks and doing it differently every time, depending on how much capacity you have.
Depends on how many eggs you have.
I love it. To the agent that knows what it's like to run around a million different directions, being busy, but not necessarily productive because they don't have the structures in place to hold the productivity along with the busyness. So love that. And then how would they find that?
Oh, it's my website.
Okay. So that's all on your website.
Yeah. And like I said, anyone that's in the sound of my voice, you can book 15 minutes, and I'm an open book. I'm more than happy. I have been really, really blessed in my professional life and in my personal life. And I didn't seek out to be a realtor. I got into real estate by default, really. It was by accident. And I'll say that probably most people end up in that space by accident. But after you're there, then you realize, oh my gosh, this business is about people. And if you focus on that, then it's amazing. Like the money just shows up. And I know, we've all heard this kind of baloney before. It's like, oh, I'm a people person, I'm going to focus on people. Well, that's true, but you still have to do it within a business construct. So like I said, I'm an open book. I'll talk to anybody. Yeah. Might even call back. So
I love that. All right. So we'll open it up. We've got a couple minutes left just for any takeaways or, if you had one aha that you have gotten as a result of being on the call today, we'd love to hear that. Or we used to call them BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious, like, oh, well, of course.
I just wanted to say, actually, I'm really impressed with how knowledgeable he is, but most importantly, his attitude and giving to others. I think that's very commendable. So I thank you for that.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Um, and I don't want to sound like the cheerleader, but I'm a cheerleader. And the first I've done a lot of corporate sales with large home builders, and I started my first brokerage in 2005 in Palm Springs, where I was just independent. And so my first new home listing was, $300,000, and it was like in the middle of Palm Desert. And if you know anything about southern, that part of Palm Springs, it's not the jewel. You know what I'm saying? And so, so that was 2005. And in 2010, I was the broker of record for the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Los Angeles. And so that was 240 luxury high-rise buildings next to what used to be the Staples Center. And then before COVID broke out, 2019, I actually listed 1,200 units, 4 high-rise buildings called Metropolis in downtown Los Angeles. So it's not so much about my resume, but my point is that for God's sakes, you can do this, right? I never finished college. I'm like, just apply yourself and then be tenacious, right? And ask for help. Apply yourself, be tenacious, ask for help, rinse and repeat, right? So.
Love that. Well, thank you so much for being such a contribution to this community. We have this call, it's being recorded, and you can find the recording if you go to empirebuilders.pro/resources under the Free Friday coaching call. I'm sure Celine's going to put it in the chat because I can see her fingers moving wildly through the screen. So all of our Free Friday coaching calls are housed and recorded there. So if you want to go back, you're driving or multitasking and know that you didn't squeeze every ounce of value out of what was actually being shared, you can go back and recap the call there. Don, we'll look forward to having you on again. And thank you so much for your commitment to helping us all elevate and be better in both mindset and skill set.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Make it a great day, everyone.